Hi, everyone. I guess we're going to get started today. Welcome, everyone, to our first study skill workshop. I hope everyone is having a good Saturday afternoon, and I'm so glad you guys can join us today. So today, our tutors will share their high school studying experience with us, and also share tips and tricks that will help us study. Thank you for joining. Right now, I just want to take this time to thank our tutors for sharing their experience with us. They worked hard putting their slides together and presentations together. So I just want to thank them for their hard work. So today, we'll start off with Isabel. So please welcome Isabel.
Hey everyone, I will go ahead and share my screen. Okay, so hi everyone, my name is Isabel Lau. I am a rising sophomore at the California Academy of Mathematics and Science. In short, our name is CAMS. I'm a varsity basketball player for my school, and I'm involved in ASB, better known as Student Council. I'm a volunteer pianist at both my church and the Torrance Memorial Hospital. I'm also a piano teacher. I'm certified by ABRSM, which is the British equivalent of CM. I do this to just earn extra money. And I'm also a vocalist for a professional jazz band, which is also paid. So I do this to earn extra cash. So as I mentioned, I attend the California Academy of Mathematics and Science, which recently has been named the #1 high school in California. We are located on the campus of California State University, Dominguez Hills, and we are a very small school because we are selective, and we have an application process which happens in 8th grade. We used to have interviews, but that's no longer a thing. And what's interesting is that you do have to have been taking advanced math in middle school to get into this school. So by the time you're in 8th grade, you have to be taking either Algebra 1 or Geometry, which I did. So at CAMS, I have 8 classes. What's interesting is that we have a lot of specialty classes. So aside from your core classes, which is just like PE, science, math, those basic classes, we also take things like Introduction to Engineering, which I took this past year. And in that class, we learned how to do engineering drawings and learned how to play around with CAD, which is Computer Aided Design. As a freshman, you also take Computer Science Essentials, in which I learned how to code in multiple languages. And this upcoming semester, since I will be a sophomore, we take biotechnology at our school. My favorite class is Japanese, and we do have a good program for this too, since 3 to 4 times a year we have students from Japan come and visit, and we have a whole cultural exchange, and it's really fun. As for clubs, I am in Key Club, which is a volunteering club. You do get to meet tons of people around your area, and even further than that, through really big spirit gatherings. Yeah. I'm also on my school's dance team, and I'm part of Red Cross, which is another volunteering program. Like I said before, I am a varsity basketball player at school, and varsity basketball takes up a lot of my time. It is a huge commitment. It requires you to travel a lot and sometimes sacrifice your weekends. We also have 6 a.m. practices 3 to 4 times a week, so I really do I have to balance in between school and basketball. I'm also in ASB. So ASB just mainly, like other schools, you just make your school social life fun and you plan activities and events. I'm also on Kindreds, which is a competitive street dance crew located in Carson. And yeah, so that's what I have to say about me. As for my skills and tips, my number one is do not procrastinate. Now, I think this one's kind of obvious and you've probably heard it many times, but I think it's really important to note this since a lot of people do this despite its consequences, and people tend to regret it later and end up pretty sleep deprived. So I think it's really important to note not to procrastinate. Taking breaks is also important since I know lots of people are really dedicated to studying, but it's important to note not to overdo it and make sure you take breaks in between. And take care of your mental health because that is important and shouldn't be neglected. Next is to stay grounded. Now, I know a lot of AP kids and kids that take advanced classes have this problem. It's pretty prominent in my school too. Since I don't know, people have this like complex where they tend to look down at people who aren't taking classes, which should obviously shouldn't happen, and you should definitely not engage in this type of behavior. It's also important to know that if you are the one feeling inferior, that it is your life and you can go at your own pace and you don't have to feel rushed or anything. And, just focus on making yourself a better person rather than comparing yourself to somebody else. Next is to balance work and play. You are still a kid and you should enjoy your youth, have fun experiences that you can look back on and feel happiness from that. Because I know some kids really dedicate themselves to studying and their work, but it's important to also have fun with your friends and do things that you would as a kid. My next is to join things you actually want to. This is something that I personally struggled with since I know people tend to have this thing where like, oh, I should join this for college apps or I should join this because my parents told me to, but find themselves pretty miserable later on. So I think it's really important to note that you should do things based on what you enjoy. Don't force yourself into anything that you're just not interested in. This was my case with joining robotics. I found myself really bored of it and I just had no desire to do it. I ended up quitting, which was a good decision for me. Obviously, this doesn't apply to everybody, but you should definitely just make sure you join things that you enjoy and not for some other reason. While this is being said, you should also make sure to try and find yourself and try different things so you're not like just kind of bored with your life or anything like that. Like you should definitely explore yourself and your interests. My next is to compromise with your parents. Parents can be really overbearing, especially regarding studying. And I think it's important to really communicate with them. Otherwise, there'll just be huge misunderstandings or huge conflicts that don't need to happen. As for studying, specifically science, you should definitely have your repetition and reading. So this is like reread things that you need to for maybe an upcoming test or something like that. Like go back to your textbook, reread things, really ingrain that. As for science, I think watching Amoeba Sisters and Bill Nye kind of does help out, despite how ridiculous it sounds. These two channels really like dumb down things and simplify it to the point where like anybody can understand it. So if you're not getting a complex concept, like I think this is really helpful. Some websites that I would recommend include Khan Academy. Khan Academy really has any subject. So if you want to get ahead or if you're struggling, like Khan Academy has free materials for you to practice with. And Quizlet is also something I really recommend since you can personalize it to your own benefit, and there's different options to test you on whatever subject that you need to study for. So I think that's really helpful. My next tip is to write things down. Whether it's some goals you have or some tasks you need to complete, writing things down has been proven to it has been proven that you're more likely to achieve or accomplish those things if you write them down. My last tip would be to get sleep. So there's this competition among kids who maybe take advanced classes where they're like, oh, well, I got less sleep than you. And it seems to be a problem since sleep is really important for you to be healthy. It's for your health. And people have made getting less sleep a competition now, which honestly sounds ridiculous now that it's being spoken out. But don't ignore it. I think sleep is definitely very important. That's all I have to say for today. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Isabel. Just a few questions that I have are, how do you balance schoolwork with basketball training?
As for schoolwork with basketball, I think I just really do it whenever I have a chance. Like maybe on the bus to a game, I'll be doing my homework like there, and right when I get home, like I don't wait a long time to do my homework. I do it right away. Since I know like I have to wake up for practice tomorrow at 6 a.m. If I procrastinate, I will get no sleep whatsoever and I'll perform really badly in both class and practice. So I make sure to keep that in mind.
Okay. And you talk a lot about procrastination. So what are some ways that kids can prevent procrastination while doing homework?
Some ways that kids might prevent procrastination when doing homework is I think to put themselves in an environment where they can really focus. Like sometimes somebody's home life just isn't the best place, so maybe they want to go to the library or a cafe to really like focus on themselves. And I think putting away any like distractions, it sounds really obvious, but you'd be surprised how many people overlook that.
Thank you, Isabel. And let's please welcome next Vivian.
Okay, let me share my screen really quick so I can show you the slide. Okay, so hi guys, my name is Vivi, and today I will be presenting my personal strategies and tips for how to study efficiently. And yeah, so this is just a table of contents. So it's just gonna be like an overview or like a template of what I'm gonna present today. So I'm gonna start off with my biography, and then I'll go on to my study strategies, and then my time management skills. And then if you guys have any questions at the end, I'll be glad to answer your question. Okay, so first I'm gonna start off with a few things about me, about my biography. So I'm an incoming senior, so that means I'm the class of 2021, and I'll be graduating next year. And also this is just a few of the classes that I will be taking next year. And okay. And then so I have civics and economics, and then I have English 4, and I'm also taking statistics for my math. And since I do go to a religious school, we're required to take a religion class. So I'm gonna have a religion class, and I'll also be taking intro to psychology and photography, and then intro to law. And then also for my last semester GPA, I ended with a 4.1, and that's a weighted GPA because I did take 2 AP classes last year, which was AP US History or APUSH, and I also took AP Computer Science. Okay, and then this is just some of the sports that I took. So in my freshman year of high school, I took volleyball, and then my sophomore year of high school, I took JV girls golf. And then my junior year, I didn't really take sports since I already finished my sports criteria. And also due to my, I have personal reasons, so I had to like transfer schools. So then I didn't really take enough sports since the new school I transferred to, we already had like 7 periods of classes. So that was already enough courses for me. Okay, and then we're gonna move on to my study strategies. So this might vary for everyone, but this is what I prefer, like a schedule for people who are trying to prepare for a test. So the days before the test, I recommend keeping up on assignments because I feel like keeping up on your reading, worksheets, or assignments is really helpful in studying for your test because sometimes it helps you better prepare for a test because based on my experience, I've seen that teachers generally quiz you on things that you've done on your homework or on notes and things that they've went over in class. So I think it's really important to keep up on your assignments. And if you do have any missing assignments or anything that you would have trouble with, I recommend you talking to your teachers and asking them questions. So it'll make it a bit more easier and also like to clarify things. And then the night before the test, I don't try to study everything all at once. Try to get a good night's rest because if you've been studying in the days before the test, all you need the night before is like a light review of your notes and remind yourself of the key ideas and practice a few skills, but don't study too late at night. And also something really important the night before the test is to get a good night's rest because sleep is really important. And although some people try to stay up late and study as much as they can, if they cram everything and then they keep staying up at night, then it makes it harder for them to remember things. And then most likely the next day, they might forget everything that they study for the next day, and that'll kind of be like a waste of time. So that's why it's really important to be well rested so you'll be more alert and able to do your best. And then the day of the test, don't skip breakfast and try to eat a good meal because if you're hungry during the test, you'll most likely not be completely focused on taking the test and you'll be thinking about the food or like how you're hungry, and you're not going to have like 100% of your concentration on when you're taking the test. And also when you're taking the test, something really important is to read all the directions really carefully and make sure you understand how you're supposed to answer each question. Like for example, for multiple choice questions, read all the possible answers before choosing them. And if you know that some answers are wrong, cross them off, even if you have to guess. This will eliminate some wrong answers. And once you choose or write an answer, double check it by reading the question again, just to confirm that your answer is correct. And moving on, also the day of the test, try to answer every part of a question. Like for example, if a question asks you to show your work or to explain how you arrived at an answer, make sure you include that information. And if you are ever stuck on a question or you're unsure, try to like mark it lightly with a pencil and then kind of move on. And if you have time, you can come back to it because you don't want to waste your time on one question if you still have like more that comes after it. And it's really important that you also finish your test and not be stuck on just one question and spend your whole time trying to figure out that question. And also, I know this is like kind of obvious, but also the day of the test, when you're taking the test, you will be very nervous and anxious, but just remember to breathe and remind yourself that you've prepared for the test and you will do your best. And then these are some of the resources I recommend of using the online studying tools to help you prepare in advance for studying. So one of them that was mentioned before is Quizlet, because Quizlet is an online course, and I believe that you can also download it as an app and it's free. It's a very flexible study aid and it supports learning at home, school, and if you want to take it on the go, like on your way to class, you can always like download the app and like study the flashcards and stuff on it. And Quizlet is really helpful because it helps memorizing facts and terms really easily. And you can also create your own flashcards and study sets. But if you don't want you can always feel free to search up things. And most likely people might have the same flashcards that they made online previously. So you don't have to make your own in case you didn't want to. And you can always personalize everything, because Quizlet, they try to make studying more fun with the flashcards, because it also, not only does it help you memorize the things you need to study for, but also I know that there's a lot of kind of games based off your flashcards and stuff and what you're studying. And it kind of makes it more of like a fun and exciting way to study but it also keeps it like informational too. And another source that I recommend to use is Khan Academy, because Khan Academy has a lot of online courses, and it doesn't just have to do with math. It can be like any other subject, and they have really, really educational videos. And I personally think that the people who teach in the videos, they have really good explanations for things. And if you want, you can always try to search up courses to take online if you're stuck on a problem or you need help and struggling with certain subjects or areas. And obviously the very obvious one is YouTube, because everyone, if you want to find a more specific video or like certain videos that you can find on Khan Academy, you can always search up YouTube videos. And a lot of people, like, they have videos like teaching whatever it is you're learning. And I believe that YouTube also has a really, really good resource tool. Okay, so this is just like a visual of how I like to separate and kind of plan out my studying. So I find that 10% of the time I recommend talking to your teachers, and it doesn't have to be teachers. It can also be like your friends, your classmates, peers, or like counselors about anything that you're stuck on or anything you're having trouble with. And then 50% of the time, I recommend reviewing your notes and kind of creating study guides, because it helps plan out and lay out everything you possibly need to study for the test. And you can also kind of see which areas you need help on or you need more extra practice in. And then maybe 40% of the time, kind of do your own practice worksheets and search up things and kind of go over notes and stuff, so you can know what the basis of everything is. And also you can be more informed on everything that you're going to be tested for the test. Okay, and then this is just my daily study routine, or how I personally study. So a few days before the test, generally the teachers will tell you when or what date the test will be on. So they give you like about a week or so, or a few days before the test, and you have those days to kind of prepare for it. And so for a few days before the test, figure out what the test is going to cover and what subject and maybe chapters that that you've previously learned. And also make a study guide based off what the test is going to cover, and list out kind of all the points and facts, and like include maybe formulas or just kind of anything that you need to remember for the test. Also make flashcards and notes, because I personally believe that flashcards really help with memorization and also helps retain knowledge, and the constant repetition of it will make it more easily engraved in your head. Also ask peers or teachers for help if you come across anything that you're stuck on, or to kind of clarify things that you might not understand like before, if you go over the notes and you kind of need some more clarification. And then also really, really important, I recommend, is to review. Reviewing allows us to transfer new knowledge and skills from short-term to long-term memory. And sometimes you never know if you're reviewing and you forget something, and then you go over your notes, but you don't remember. That's why reviewing is important, because you kind of like base off everything that you know, and you can separate what you know and what you don't know. And like I mentioned before, flashcards, really, really good tool and material for studying, because it helps retain information really easily, and also helps with memorization and kind of active recall, because the constant repetition of it and like seeing the words on paper and constantly memorizing and repeating everything in your head helps you memorize and also study for the test really, really well. And then this is just kind of like a timeline of how I recommend managing your time. So step one is to clear your schedule. So make sure you set out like a day or kind of like a week agenda of how you're going to study for your test, and see that if you have any extracurriculars or other tests or subjects that you need to study for, you can clear your schedule and see on which days and how long you can study for the test that is coming up. And also step two is to prioritize your priorities, to see like what is required to have more time and what things you should focus less on. And step 3 is to break down your task into chunks, because you have the test and everything that the teacher is going over, but breaking down the task into chunks makes it easy for you to retain the information, also to cut down on what you need to study, and from there you can kind of build your way up from there. And step 4, the last step, is to take breaks in between. Although like some people might overlook it, taking breaks in between studying time and also reviewing is really important, because if you don't take breaks, you kind of stress yourself out. And sometimes if you clog up too much information in your head or something, it's going to be too much and maybe your head can't take it. So taking breaks in between allows you to kind of like, so you're not as stressed and like kind of more relaxed. And then my last thing that I really stress is do not procrastinate, because although like it's really easy to procrastinate, procrastination actually prevents you from reaching your goals. Because if you keep procrastinating like the days that's leading up to the test and just study everything and cram everything the night before, it keeps things accumulating, and also it's not good because you won't be able to do your best since you just cram everything the night before, and also you won't be able to also memorize everything that you need to know like for the test. And then that's basically it for my presentation.
Thank you. I just have a few questions to ask. So tutors are going to talk about online resources a lot, such as Quizlet, Khan Academy, YouTube, and more. How has those resources helped you specifically?
For me personally, the resources that I recommend really help me because it kind of makes things personalized. Because if you study or kind of like search things up online and then you study based off what other people say, it's not really your words, so it's not easier for you to memorize the things. But if you use those resources and it helps you to write it down and everything and use the flashcards or whatever, it's really effective, because like not only are you using your own words, but you're able to kind of memorize everything more easily, because like it's coming from you and it's not coming from someone else.
Okay, and one more question is, so you talked a lot about studying and reviewing, and so what is the ideal time and place where students should study or review?
This might vary depending on the student because everyone is different, but my personalized like ideal time would be like sometime during the day. But this might be different, like I said before, because some students might be really like active and really good at memorizing or like studying during nighttime. But then I believe during the day is more effective because like you have more time during the day. And also during the day, that's when most resources are available. Like if you want to talk to your teachers or like you have any questions, you can email them during the day, and most likely they'll like respond. Because if you study late at night, most likely people would be asleep or it's kind of too late and people aren't on their electronics to like answer your questions. So that's when I think like the most ideal time is to study. And then the most ideal place would be just anywhere like quiet, like anywhere distraction free and not too loud. Like at home, maybe in your room, just make sure there's not like a lot of noises or like distractions. But if some people they're not comfortable studying at home because it's kind of like too many things going on, you can always go to the library, because the library has a lot of resources and it's also like a really quiet place for you to kind of focus and you're able to concentrate. But you don't have a library to go, you can always go to like a tutoring school or kind of like a cafe like mentioned before. But yeah.
Thank you, Vivian, for sharing. So let's please welcome next Jonathan.
Let me share my screen. Okay, can you guys see my screen?
Yes, we can. Go on.
Okay, so a brief about me. So I'm a rising junior. That means I'm an 11th grader next year. And some of my classes are listed here. You shouldn't really worry about these classes right now because you still have a few years before you get to high school. Yeah, and then my GPA is 4.0, so that's the highest you can get for my school. Some achievements are National Honor Society and California Scholarship Federation. You can get these by having a high GPA, which is obtained by good grades. Outside of school, I swim. I've been swimming for 10 years. So for a normal school year, so that's like before coronavirus, I had like a 15+ hour swim week. I had 3 mornings from like 5 a.m. to 6 a.m. And now they're about 8 hours. So that's still quite a lot, about an hour each day. But it's a dramatic decrease from regular times. All right, so now on to my school days. So I prioritize some classes over others. So this depends on what you're good at. So I'm good at math. So I don't focus that much in math. I do homework in that class. But the homework is math homework. So it's not like I don't do other homework at home. So this is not recommended, right? This only works for me because I understand math well enough that I can study it by myself at home. Yeah, and then taking notes. So for math, like I said, I do my homework in it. So this also means that while I'm in class and I don't know how to do a problem, I can wait for the teacher to talk about it, or I can just ask the teacher directly. As for notes, I'll take it in the margins. So maybe next to a problem that I don't know, I'll write down some notes that the teacher gave. For English, I'll do it on handouts that the teacher gives. Sometimes I'll look at Spark Notes. Yeah, and in reading books, this is very important for both your own benefit and school. So reading for pleasure is very different from reading for school. Reading for school, you're forcing yourself to read a book that you might not like. Reading for pleasure means that you like reading whatever you want to read. For example, adventure or science fiction, right? And then for science, I take notes on a Google Doc. Last year in my science class, I would comment stuff that I didn't understand in the margins. And this worked well for me. I would have like about 40 comments next to each notes doc. And for history, this is really my only class where I actually have a notebook in my backpack. So I would take notes in it, basically write down almost everything that the teacher says. And then I would also read the textbook because for history and English, textbooks and books are important. I'm going to say study habits. So a small disclaimer, mine are different from yours, and that's okay, right? You have to find your perfect balance. So usually I study for about 15 to 20 minutes, and then I will take a small break, which will be around 5 minutes. So this 15 to 20 minute studying and 5-minute rest schedule works for me because I can't focus for long periods of time. That means that if I were to just keep looking or studying for 2 hours, my brain would be really tired by the end and I'd be really cranky and really mad. As for the 5 minutes rest, it's basically anything you want to do. So let's say you're really hungry after studying, you can eat a snack, but make sure to set a timer so you don't like end up like eating or talking to friends for way too long. You can also watch a YouTube video, but like I said, set a timer because YouTube is very distracting. I find myself losing a lot of time on there. Yeah. Okay, so time management, I haven't mastered this. I've only learned about it in 9th grade, so it's only been about a year or 2 years. Yeah, so the most important thing is set a timer and decide how long you want to study. This is important because, like I said, I can't focus for really long, so I know that I can only study for short periods of time. But it might be different for you. You probably can study for, let's say, 1 hour or 2 hours, and that'll be your time limit. Yeah. And then as for the timer sound, set it to the most annoying sound you can find, right? That'll like wake you up. And then because after studying, you'll be really tired. Your brain isn't focused at all. So by setting it to the most annoying ringtone, you'll wake yourself up. And then organizing. So Google Drive is really important for me. To the right, you can see a small screenshot, and that's just like my Google Drive. You can see everything from like each grade level. And then within each grade level, there's a folder for each class. So in 9th grade, I used a binder with dividers, but I found that this didn't work well for me because all of my homework would be like mixed together. So I would have to look through it every class to find it. Last year, I used a color-coded folder. So that means that for every class, I'll have a different color for it. So my math folder was blue, my science was green. And this worked really well for me because each folder has 2 pockets. And I can put homework in one pocket and then important notes or the syllabus in the other. And whenever I need homework, I can just go straight to that folder. Okay, and then small things are also important. So for your backpack, if your teacher requires a textbook, you can ask them for a physical or digital textbook. Usually I like digital because I don't like carrying too many things in my backpack. And then at home, your desk, how you organize it is really important. So where do you put your Chromebook? So I put it like right in the middle, and then like textbooks and papers are to the side. And then my water is on the floor. I don't drink a lot of water, so yeah, it works for me. And in formatting your notes, you can do bullet points or complete sentences, whatever works for you. Cornell notes also work, but I don't like them because, you know, teachers tell them to use them, and then I don't really like using what teachers recommend. Okay, so tips for focusing. So you can take a break as mentioned before, and then your second tip would be to meditate. This works for me because I swim a lot, and some practices are really hard. So my brain will be really tired. I won't want to do anything. Meditating helps me relax, but it does sound weird because you're just sitting and listening to yourself. But it works. And then a last resort. So if you're really out of ideas, you can take a cold shower. Yeah, I've only done this like 3 times because I get sick really easily. The purpose of a cold shower is to shock you. So as a swimmer, like I jump in the pool every day. So the pool's really cold. So yeah, so it shocks me, it wakes me up. If you're groggy, you can take a shower for like 1 minute. So don't take it too long. And then going on to math. So let's first discuss what is math. Is it more about words or numbers, writing or problem solving, or more vocabulary or formulas? And then I hope you answered every choice that's on the right side, right? Because math is all numbers, problem solving, and formulas. Yeah. Okay, and then so how I study in school. So this is really this is different from others. So don't like take it with a grain of salt. I do homework in class, like I mentioned before. This is mainly because I'm most focused in class. At home, I will get really distracted because there's no one on me. So sometimes my parents will check in occasionally, but I'll be really distracted by then. In class, you always have a teacher watching over you. So yeah, so I'll be like most focused. I'll actually try to finish my homework. And if I don't understand a concept, you can just wait for the teacher to teach it, or you can just ask them, or you can search Google and look at some example problems. So at home, so depending on how hard the test is, I'll do more problems. So if like you know the test content really well, I probably won't study at all. But if the test is really hard and then I didn't understand like 2 homeworks out of the 4 homeworks, then I'll do maybe extra problems that I'll find in the textbook, or I'll go on Khan Academy or some other website. So the day of this test, is also important. So now it depends on when your math class is. So for me last year, my math class was the third class I had. This meant that I could study in the first and second classes. So in these classes, if I had a test and I didn't really understand it, I would look at the textbook and do problems. Sometimes I would also wake up really early and do problems. This is because like I find that I'm most focused and I remember more in the morning than at night. Yeah, and then you also have to remember that all classes are important. So if your first two classes are really hard, you probably shouldn't study for math. You can just talk to your friends on the way there, which is what I do. And then I'll give like a sample problem and then I'll try to solve it in my head and then talk to my friends about it. And then if you don't understand a concept, your first step should always be to talk to your teacher, right? They know the material for really well. They've been teaching it for like 10 to 20 years. Yeah, and then your second step, if your teacher explains it and you don't understand it, look at the textbook and then find more problems. So as for how to find problems, let's say your teacher assigns 1 to 31 odd. So that's like 1, 3, 5, 7, 9 to 31. You can do those problems, but that's your actual homework. So at home, you'll find problems that will be the problems that she skipped. So in 1 to 31 odd, she skipped every even number. So 2, 4, 6, 8. So you can do the problems from 2 to 30. Sometimes this also benefits you. Well, besides like you understanding the concept more and getting more practice, because maybe the next day the teacher will assign 2 to 30 even, right? And then by then you'll have done the homework and then you understand it. So that means that you got rid of the next day's homework. And then when you do understand it, write it down. So I have a small whiteboard on my desk and then I will write whatever problem I don't understand on it. I'll also write the steps to solve it on it. So whenever I look at it, I'll just quickly look over it and then I'll understand, okay, so that's how I went from here to here. Right, so in summary, I spent about 30 minutes in school. That's 30 minutes out of an hour worth of class. The other 30 minutes is probably like doing other homework besides math. And at home, 15 minutes. But this depends whether it's a test, whether there's a test or not. So 15 minutes might be an hour. So on non-test days, I'll study math for 30 minutes. That's just homework. On test days, I'll do it for 45 minutes. And then, yeah, the disclaimer, this number is different for different people. So if you like history a lot, maybe math isn't your strong suit. So your numbers might be different. You might study for 3 hours. All right, so takeaways, again, mine are different from yours. And then don't force yourself to do problems, right? You'll lose motivation this way. You won't get anything out of it because when you're really tired, let's say you've done like 1 through 5 all. So you've done 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 problems. And then you get really tired. You think to yourself, I don't want to do this anymore. But then you force yourself to do 6 through 10. That's really not going to help you because by then your brain will have shut down and then, yeah. So split up your studying. So maybe 15 minutes when you get home. So that's what I do because after swim, I'll have taken a shower, I'll have eaten. So, and then that refreshes my brain. And then between studying, you can do the rest of your homework. And then when you wake up, you can do another like 20 minutes for studying. And then for me, studying in large chunks is useless because like I said, I can't focus for a long time. Okay, so that was it. Any questions?
Okay, thank you, Jonathan. I have a couple questions. So what are other things they can do during the break to blow off steam or to like release stress?
Okay, yeah, so some other things they can do besides eating a snack, let's say you have a pet that you've been like holed up in your room and you really want to play with your pet, then you can go outside and just like play with them. But like I said, you have to set a timer or else you're going to lose track of time. Another thing you can do, watching YouTube, but this isn't really good for you unless you like, like 5 minutes is up. Yeah, a thing I like to do is just like listen to music for 5 minutes, and then because each music video is about like 3 minutes, so I'll go through like 1.5 videos, and then I'll know that time is up, and then I'll go back to study.
And one more, so you said that you practice during your like school during before quarantine at least 15 hours a day. So how do you, and you said that you balanced like your sport and your schoolwork very well, but has there ever been a time where you like got behind in schoolwork and you couldn't catch up?
Not really, because most of the time I try to finish my homework in school. So this means that if my teacher gives me a handout, I'll probably fill it out as quickly as possible. And then at home, I'll just look over it. In school, I'll also probably do it during lunch if I know that I have a lot of homework, or I'll study during lunch. But yeah, that's it. I've never really fallen behind.
Great. Thank you, Jonathan. And we can, last but not least, we can welcome Doris.
Okay, hello everyone. I'm going to share my screen right now. So hello everyone, my name is Doris and I'll be introducing my studying tips and tricks in a nutshell. So first of all, I'm going to introduce myself a little bit. So I'm going to share some of my fun facts with you. So I'm an incoming senior in high school, so I'll be graduating next year. And my favorite subjects in school include English, biology, and psychology. So just a little bit of background on academics and stuff. I did cross country and track, and I had a 4.2 weighted GPA last semester. Cumulative for both semesters as well. And here are a few of my achievements. These are only some of them. I won't list all of them. So I was a scholar athlete for cross country and track. I was an orchestra section leader. So as a section leader, I was responsible for keeping track of my section and fixing mistakes that some people may have made. And I also help tweak some people's techniques. And I help people who are also struggling behind in the music. And I am also recognized with the President's Education Award. And I'm also in this organization called Senior Men and Women. So what this organization is that it represents our school and our city. And we are leaders of our school and we go around doing volunteering events. And we also host drives, charities, those types of things. So next of the achievements is National Honor Society. So I've been in it for 2 years. Okay, the next one is pre-med. I'm a pre-med officer on my school campus. So what that is that it's a club that is dedicated to sharing information about the medical field to students who are potentially interested. Okay, next is SPL President. That is my title right now. So SPL stands for Students Promoting Literacy. It's a club organization on campus dedicated to promoting the English language. And we also tutor ELD students and we host book drives and we also donate books to other places that are needed. Okay, next is I'm also a student coordinator at Harvest LA. Harvest LA is my church. So as student coordinator, I'm responsible for coming up with events in the coming weeks, as well as organizing the entire night because we have fellowship on Fridays and also keep track of our students and attendance. And I also communicate with the elders of the church as well as our advisors. Okay, next and not least, last but not least is I'm an instructor and moderator at Wave Learning Festival. So if you don't know what Wave Learning Festival is, it's an online class It's like a seminar online, and then there's so many different classes you can take online. If you're bored in quarantine, you can always sign up for a class. And actually, signups end on the 20th, so feel free to sign up for a class if you haven't. So I'm going to share some of my skills and tips for school and studying. So these are just general tips. There aren't actually specifics for any subject. So first of all, I'm going to go over repetition. So repetition is key. Why is repetition so important? So first of all, if you are unfamiliar with a subject or a topic, repeating it daily will gradually, it will just be tattooed in your brain eventually. So I took AP Chinese in sophomore year, and many of my friends know and my family that they know that my Chinese wasn't good, okay? It wasn't the best, and I really struggled with learning the language. So when I came across a phrase or vocabulary that I didn't know, I would just repeat it every single day in my head, or I would just practice using it to my parents. So that way I was able to build up my Chinese skills as well as remember it for the long run. So I think that's very helpful. Other ways to practice repetition, if you don't know any math formulas for this new chapter, you can keep writing down the formulas. You can just keep looking at it, staring at it, deciphering what each of the variables mean. You can always post it on your wall, just look at it, read it out loud to yourself. Those are also very good methods. Okay, my next tip is be passionate about things you love. I think that's very important because I think living in an Asian community, we're always pressured to do things that we don't want to because it's against the norm or it's just not expected of us. So I think that being passionate with things you love, it's really important for your happiness. You should prioritize your happiness above anything else, okay? For example, I know this one kid who took 6 APs in 1 year, okay? That does not sound fun at all. And no, he was not happy at all because his parents made him take all those APs. And yes, he was a good student, but did he like it? No. So he was not happy. And when he got into college, he was not very satisfied and decided to go follow his dreams afterward, which was art. So I think this is really important. So don't try to take AP classes or honors classes, just any type of advanced classes if you don't like it, okay? It's going to be absolute torture for you. You're not going to like it. And your grades are obviously going to reflect that afterwards if you're not a very motivated student. So for example, if you're interested in arts, you can just focus on art-related school subjects. You don't have to dive deep into other subjects that you don't like, such as STEM subjects, if you're really interested in art, okay? Don't cram AP Calc with AP Bio, with AP US History, with all those APs when you don't actually like them. So I think that's very important. So do the things you love, join clubs that you like, spend more time on things that are more important to you, okay? Colleges actually value rigor. They don't value rigor. I'm sorry. They don't value rigor. They value dedication. So if you are very dedicated in what you love, they're going to look at you as a really good potential student in the future. So just keep that in mind. So be passionate about things you love. Okay, next thing, I think everyone's talked about this before, Quizlet. I think Quizlet is one of the best online resources you can use since they're like virtual flashcards. So they can be used virtually for any subject, but I highly recommend using it for history because history, I think it's really hard to memorize all those dates, events, people, locations. Those types of topics are really hard to memorize, especially in history. So using Quizlet will really help you just memorize things and just prep you for tests. So I personally use Quizlet, like I said, for history and for English. I don't really use it for math because sometimes the definitions that Quizlet has isn't what my teacher taught me. So I only use Quizlet if I'm sure that the definitions match what I'm learning in school. Okay, so Quizlet's really helpful. I highly recommend you use it. It's there on the internet, so why not just utilize it? It's free. So next is have a schedule prepared, okay? So in the past, I was a really bad student in terms of scheduling everything. I just had conflicting schedules all the time, and I was a master procrastinator. I was like the best procrastinator in my grade. So I highly recommend that you have a schedule, because if you have a schedule, you can really see what's going on the day, and you can set goals for yourself. And after you complete an entire schedule, you'll feel very satisfied. But once you start to falter in your schedule, you're going to think that it's okay to just ignore it. So I highly recommend sticking to a schedule. Okay, make sure that you don't get distracted. Okay, obviously you don't have to plan a super strict schedule. Like me, make sure you take breaks in between so your brain can breathe a little bit. Take breaks in between so you're able to absorb new information. I think that's a really big mistake a lot of students make when studying. They think they can study hours on end while absorbing information at the same time. Your brain doesn't work like that. Okay, your brain needs to take breaks in between. Okay, so it's like a sponge. You can only put so much water in it. So at times you sometimes have to squeeze some water out. So take some breaks in between, and then after that you can go in and take in some more information. Okay, that's a little bit healthier. That's a healthier method for studying. Okay, so have a schedule prepared. That's really important. Okay, next is set limits on yourself. Okay, like I said, don't go ahead and take 8 APs in a year. Okay, that's impossible. Okay, don't do that. Okay, make sure you know what you're capable of. Okay, if you're not capable of being on swim team, being math team captain, being science Olympiad captain, plus taking like 7 APs on top of that, it's not going to work out for you. Okay, so know what you need to do. Know what you want to accomplish. Okay, don't force yourself to do things that you're not capable of, because ultimately you're going to be very stressed, and then your schedule is going to be all messed up, and then your grades are going to go downhill because of that. Okay, so I highly recommend that you know what you're capable of. Know how to manage yourself. Don't fall into the temptations of peer pressure. Okay, peer pressure, everyone's going to experience it, whether you're in elementary school, middle school, high school, college. Okay, don't follow what other people are doing. Just because someone is in math team doesn't mean you should try out for math team. Okay, do what you know, do what you love, and know what you're able to do. Okay, know your capabilities. That's really important. So set limits on yourself. Okay, next, and I think it's one of the most important ones, is don't complain. Okay, complaining is not going to get you anywhere. Are you going to waste 10 hours complaining about the math test that you flunked? It's not going to help you. Okay, what you can do instead of complaining is you can study. You can talk to your teacher. You can talk with friends about it. You can do other things. Complaining is a total waste of time. It's not going to get you anywhere. It's basically, you're just wasting your energy on things that you can't even control. Okay, I think that's a really important rule. Don't complain about things you can't control. Okay, complaining is just going to make you look bad, and it's also just a total waste of time. So I highly recommend not complaining. I mean, you can complain, but it's just ultimately not going to do anything for you. Okay, next is set goals and don't compare yourself with others. Okay, so like I said, like living in an Asian community, parents usually compare their kids to one another, saying, oh, my kid went to Harvard Medical School. Wow, so amazing. Oh, my kid went to Stanford for pre-med, like things like that. So I feel like kids nowadays, they have this certain type of burden they need to carry, this pressure from other people. I just think that's really unhealthy. It's a very unhealthy mindset for kids growing up, especially when they're really young. So set goals for yourself that you want to do. If you want to be a doctor, great, you can be a doctor. If you don't want to be a lawyer, you don't have to be a lawyer, okay? Don't compare yourself with others. I used to do that a lot because my school is notorious for being very competitive. Everyone's super high achieving. We've had 100% graduation rate last year. So there's a lot of pressure on students at my school. So I just tell people on my campus when I encounter them, when they talk to me about their problems, I just say, oh, don't compare yourself to so-and-so, because that way you'll have a better mindset and you'll be better in school. And plus your grades, they're just a letter, okay? They don't actually reflect your true capabilities in anything. It's just, grades just test how good you are in school. So if a kid is good at art, so what? They can do art in the future, okay? That's their goal. So don't force yourself to become something you don't want to do, okay? Set good goals for yourself, okay? That's an important rule. So the last thing I want to talk about for the general rules is stay humble, okay? So I think that's really important. As a high achieving student, you need to really know your place. I think a lot of people at my school, they feel like they're pressured to be even more high achieving than they already are, because there just doesn't seem to be a limit on how much high achieving actually is. So these people will brag about, oh, I got into how many Ivy Leagues, I took this many APs, I only got 3 hours of sleep. I volunteer at the hospital, and plus I have like a position at the city council, something like that. So they'll keep bragging about it. And I just feel like that's not going to help anyone. If you want to brag about your accomplishments, tell people how you got there. That's going to help them a lot, as well as give them some hope and just give them like a reality check. Oh, this is possible for me. Because if you keep telling them about things that seem inhumanly like you're not capable of like doing all of this, like stacking all of your APs plus classes, people are not going to think that's helpful for them. Because what good is it knowing that you took 20 APs? It's not going to do anything for the other person. It's just going to make them feel bad. So if you're going to talk about your achievements, tell other people how you got there. I think that's going to be really good for both sides. You got to help people, and the person that is helped gets to just take a bigger step in their next path of the academic career that they're going for. Okay. So now we'll be talking about studying tips and tricks for English. Okay. So before I dive right in here, just a little intro. I used to be a really bad English student. Okay. I used to do the bare minimum on everything. Okay. So bare minimum means like average grades. Okay. But I did have A's all throughout high school for English, but honestly, I wasn't that motivated in freshman year. But I came to realize that English was actually, I loved it a lot. And it was really satisfying for me when I came up with a really good analysis and I found out, oh, what I was reading really related to what I did in everyday life. So now I'm one of the, I would consider myself a good English student. I had A pluses both semesters this year for APANG. So yeah, it takes a lot of hard work and dedication, but trust me, you can do it. So I'm going to share my studying tips and tricks for English for you now. Okay. So I divided this into two parts, writing and reading. Okay. Obviously, there's more things in the English classroom that you'll be doing, such as debates, presentations, speeches, etc. You'll be doing more things like that. But these two things are what these are going to be two things that everyone's going to experience in high school, okay? Reading and writing, no matter what level of English class you're in. So let's dive down into the writing section. So first of all, I highly recommend that you practice reading and writing, plus working with different sources, such as speeches, books, articles, watching the news, things like that. Okay, unfortunately, our society nowadays, we're kind of dominated by social media. We don't really pay attention to these types of sources anymore, okay? So I highly recommend just reading more books, watching speeches, such as presidential debates, just eulogies. Those are good too. I feel like those are really good. You can try annotating them, analyzing them, practice knowing the purpose of that particular piece of writing or text or speech. I think that's going to be really good practice for you. And you're obviously going to be an even better student at English if you constantly practice reading different things. Okay, you're going to get exposed to so many more things. And obviously in high school, you don't get to choose what you get to read sometimes. Sometimes you have to read something really boring, like Catcher in the Rye. But sometimes you get to read something fun, like The Onion, which is a satirical news website. So practice with different things, and obviously you're going to get better as you're going to be more comfortable with these types of sources, okay? So next point is having others criticize your work. I know we don't like people talking about where our faults are. We don't like people saying, oh, this part is bad, you're not good in this part. But I think that type of criticism is good for growth, okay? So after you finish an essay, try giving it to like a high achieving student in English and just have them read it over and have them just analyze your mistakes for you. Check where you did wrong. And after looking at your results, after getting criticism from there, you're going to know what you did wrong. And obviously, you're going to fix those mistakes because humans, we don't like criticism. So we just don't want that at all. So I think that's a really quick fix method. So criticism is really good. So I do that a lot. I used to have people in my class grade my essays on the side, and that really helped me with building my skills and writing good essays, okay? So next point, as always, use Quizlet. Quizlet is like your savior for everything. So for English, I use Quizlet for vocabulary. Sometimes I have to read or write like some really lengthy analysis. Sometimes if I don't know the terms for it, I'll go on to Quizlet and just review it and practice and memorize. So I think that's really good, especially if you're writing an essay of rhetorical analysis or synthesis. I think Quizlet has a lot of terms that will be good to use in your essays and your works for English. Okay, next point is to read essays written by other students. Okay, reading more examples really allows you to know what the standard is. Okay, so I highly recommend that you read both good and bad essays. Plus, so if you're an AP student, you're going to know that on the College Board website, there's going to be in each AP class, they'll post results plus the rubric and the reasoning why they give them that score. So I think that's really helpful for you. So take a look at why this person scored a 9. So in the past rubrics, the AP score for essays was out of 9 instead of 6. So see why that person got that score and look at their reasoning. And then just read over their essay and just kind of look at, oh, this is why this person got the score. So that way you'll know, oh, this is how you get a good score and this is how you get a bad score. So I think reading essays by other students, it'll really help you a lot. Okay, but don't copy paste anything. Don't plagiarize. Plagiarism is bad. Okay, so next point is to set higher standards for yourself. Okay, as I said, I used to be that average student. I would just do the bare minimum for the A. I wouldn't go above and beyond. But I feel like setting higher standards for yourself, you're able to just be more satisfied with your work and realize, oh, this effort that I put in actually is good for me, because you will get extra credit in English if you have like a superb analysis. If you did more than the average student, you're going to get extra credit. So I feel like there's nothing wrong with this. There's nothing negative that can come out of this. So just set higher standards for yourself, and it will be reflected upon both your attitude and your grades. Okay, the last point I'm going to make for writing is to practice timed writing. Okay, in high school, you're going to do a lot of timed writing, and it's a lot of pressure and anxiety, and sometimes you don't write as good as you want to. So lately, because I've been in quarantine since March, and I just had my AP exam like 2 months ago. I don't remember, but during that time, I kept practicing timed writing in my room. I would lock myself in my room and just have my timer and a sheet of paper plus the passage that I'm going to analyze. And I felt like practicing that every single day really helps me in just being more comfortable with timed writing, because it is very, there's a lot of anxiety that goes back with timed writing. So I think it's really important that you practice. And obviously, with all that practice, it was reflected in my AP score, so I'm really satisfied about that. So timed writing, just practice it. No one likes timed writing. I don't like it, but practicing that will make you a better writer. Okay, no matter whether it's for timed writing or not, you're going to be a better writer if you practice with timed writing. Okay, now we're going to hop into reading. Okay, reading is another important part of English. So the first part I'm going to talk about is read your full texts with an audiobook. Okay, so obviously school books are like one of the most important but boring things you're going to read in your entire life. And obviously everyone's a different type of learner. There's 2 types of learners, if you didn't know. There's visual and there's verbal. Okay, so verbal learners like me, we learn by people talking to us. We're more of like, we use our ears rather than our eyes most of the time. But visual learners, they usually learn with seeing things. So I'm more of a verbal learner. So reading school books really doesn't get into my brain unless I read it a bunch of times or if I use it with an audiobook. So this is a little trick I like to use. Okay, obviously audiobooks are a little slow at times, so I put it on 2 times speed. If there's more than 2 times speed, I'll put it even faster, because I can talk really fast, plus I have really good listening as well. So I highly recommend that you just read with an audio. So read along and you'll hear someone reading it out loud to you, and it's really helpful to you. And then you're going to have that text tattooed in your brain, and then you're going to be all set for the test when it comes. So I think that's really helpful. It's a little trick you can use. Okay. Next thing I'm going to talk about is the 3 don'ts. Okay. I know. Okay. School text, a lot of analyzing, a lot of writing, a lot of summarizing, a lot of quote identification, whatever. Okay. These are the 3 don'ts. You can never use these 3 things. Okay. Spark Notes, Cliff Notes, and Google. Okay. These 3 things are literally going to just, it's not going to destroy your grade, but it's just going to destroy your just method of learning. and you're just going to end up being a really lazy student in the future, okay? So in freshman year, I used a lot of SparkNotes and CliffsNotes. I used a lot of Google, okay? I was that student. So, but now I came to learn that these things aren't even important because it really guilt trips me because I'm stealing, well, not stealing, borrowing. Borrowing's a nicer word, okay? I'm borrowing answers from a website, okay? I'm getting this average dry analysis, and I'm not crediting them for that because, so, and also you're not thinking for yourself. That's really bad practice, okay? Because in college, a lot of the assignments your professors are going to give you, they're not going to be on CliffsNotes. They're not going to be on SparkNotes. You can't even find most of them on Google most of the time, depending on your major. But just these three things really limits your limitation. It really sets limitations on how much you can do. It really stops your brain from working, okay? So I don't understand people that turn in their work using SparkNotes, CliffsNotes, and Google. Like, they don't feel guilty at all. But, it is what it is. I mean, you can use it occasionally if you don't absolutely know what to do. You can take a look at it for reference, but don't copy it down because you need to practice thinking for yourself. And plus, if you're in AP class, you're going to submit all of your work to turnitin.com anyways. So if you use sources from these three, you're practically screwed. So just practice thinking for yourself. It's really good for you. And you'll learn also not to rely on others for information, but on yourself, which is really important, just life rule. Okay, so next is author's purpose. Author's purpose is really important. If you understand the author's purpose, you will be able to just understand the entire text in whole, okay? So that's really important. And a little trick I would like to teach you guys for reading is Space Cat. So I learned this in APANG. So APANG is English Language and Composition AP, okay? So Space Cat stands for speaker, purpose, audience, context, exigence, choices, appeals, and tone. So if you have all these down, it's going to really help you with your analysis plus your organization, especially if you're analyzing from a reading book or for writing, if you're writing an essay. It works both ways. So it's going to help you a lot, and I hope these tricks and tips have helped you. So yes, this is all for me. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Doris. I have a few questions. So I know that with all your goals that you have set and accomplished, how did you achieve that?
So for my goals, so in the future, I want to work in the healthcare field, okay? But obviously, there's some subjects in school that I don't like that you have to do for the healthcare field, such as like chemistry. I'm not good with chemistry, but what you can do is focus on things you actually like. There's so many parts for the healthcare field. There's volunteering you can do. You can help tutor kids. I think that's important too. And I also think that just focusing on what you like as well, because showing your passion is most important. So being in pre-med club for almost 4 years now, I think I've really gotten to see what I actually want to do in the healthcare field. So that's really important. So if you have a goal set in mind, don't be afraid to go for it. Join clubs and organizations that will help you just learn more about your dream. So that's really important. So yeah.
Also from like tutoring, volunteering, and all the clubs that you're in, how do you balance everything together?
Okay, so first of all, I have a calendar. I recently started using it. So because lately I've been, as a senior, incoming senior, I've gotten a lot of officer positions. I have a lot of things to do. So it's really hard to balance. So I keep them all on a schedule on my phone. Especially I think the iPhone's really nice. It's like the organization is superb. So I use that to check up, and they also notify me when a schedule is coming up. So I think that's really nice. But sometimes you'll have conflicting schedules. I think that's the hardest part. I have that a lot. It's unfortunate, but I try to do my best to work around it. So if I have two schedules that are conflicting, for example, I have my violin lesson, and if I have to tutor a kid, I would consider canceling my violin lesson because I want to think about what will benefit the other party the most. So I think that's also really important for life. I think that will help me in the future as well. So that's how I kind of manage my schedule.
Okay, thank you, Doris. And that is all for today, guys. We hope that you learned a lot. And I just want to thank our tutors one more time for making this workshop possible. If you haven't already signed up with our free tutoring program, the sign up will be in the Facebook chat below. So you can just click in there and sign up, and we'll pair you up with a tutor as soon as possible. Thank you again for joining our workshop, and have a good rest of your day. Thank you.